welcome back to Troubleshooting Agile. Hi there, Jeffrey.
Hi, Squirrel.
So, I found an article and I thought it was really interesting. It was called Movie Logic. But you know what, Jeffrey? I got to tell you something. I didn't read it.
Well, I appreciate that you sent it to me anyway, and I did read it, so I think that's great.
Excellent. Well, I knew because I understood, like from the first sentence or two, that it was a topic that we would be interested in, our listeners would be interested in, because it's, if I understand it right, and Jeffrey, you got to tell us because you actually read it. It's all about how most movies could be about 2 minutes long.
That's right. It's actually called Escaping Movie Logic. It was a blog post by Kate Hall, and she had it on Substack. I've read some of her other stuff too, so it was good to see her back in my inbox again. And the thing about the article, actually it's called "Are You Stuck in Movie Logic?" I should say. I just get ahead that I want to escape it. Is that a lot of movies are structured around something. Uh, this idea that people can't talk about the problem that they have, and that the reason that happens is because if they did talk about it, well, the whole thing would be resolved to be no movie, and that naturally appealed to me. We've talked about similar things in the past, and so yeah, that definitely stood out to me as the kind of thing that yeah, we can help people have conversations that be effective, even if it's not what they were used to seeing in movies and television.
So let me try a couple examples. So we did one for our listeners right here, which is that I could have pretended that I read the article and that I was really expert on it and I knew everything about it, and that could create some drama as you tried, Jeffrey, to discover whether I was hiding the information that I hadn't read the article. I just came out and said, "Hey, Jeffrey, actually, let me admit it, I didn't read the article," and he
Yeah.
said, "That's fine, I did. So then we can have a great conversation," which we're having. But it really made our kind of Jeffrey and Squirrel sitcom really short, because there
Yeah.
just isn't much drama in the fact that you read it and you're going to tell us about it and we're all going to learn and everybody's fine. It's you could not imagine a best-selling novel or fantastically hit television show based on that thesis that we I admitted a problem, you forgave me for it, and we went on. That's just not the plot of Hollywood blockbusters, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I think it is an important ingredient of effective teams. And even I would say this here, which is that as a team, as you and I then discussed the article and what it was about, we started talking about movie logic in general. And why is it that movies have these properties or television have these properties? And it brought up in something entirely different that wasn't in the article. So we actually got some innovation beyond the article. And you brought up this idea of this insight that there's the movie Montage, and how that is related to the movie logic. And so maybe you can say what it is about a montage that struck you as the sort of the unreality of the movies.
Yeah, well, as you were explaining the article to me before we got going here, the idea that movies have this kind of drive toward stimulating your amygdala, getting you excited about something, getting fight or flight going with you. And one way they do that in a very compact way while showing some learning is to show the type of learning that is visible and vigorous and exciting and interesting. And so you might see somebody learning to sword fight and falling down, and then sword fighting a bit better and only falling down after a while, and then eventually actually winning the sword fight. And if you watch a montage of that, it takes about a minute, and suddenly this person is a world class fencer, right? And you've become an expert in this area after 60 seconds, because it would be too boring to actually watch the person learn actual sword fighting. The point is that the outward symbol is the montage. The outward activity is exciting and interesting and has a lot of movement and drama in it. But the actual event of learning something often involves no movement at all and is extremely boring. And the most egregious or most noticeable example of that I know is an old friend of ours, both of ours, called Steve Freeman. And I remember when he first joined the technology team that I was leading, the first thing he did is he sat down in his chair after having read a little bit and understood our software, and he stared out the window for 15 minutes. And we all thought something was wrong. We're thinking, should we get him some coffee? Is he feeling well? What's going on with this guy? Because he's supposed to come and do all this dramatic stuff like in a montage, right? He's going to show us this
Yeah.
thing and refactor our something, and then rewrite something else and bring us new techniques, and suddenly we all be doing stuff. But he was staring out the window. And then the only thing he came up with at the end was the name of something. Now, it was a brilliant name, and it really helped us, and it unstuck a lot of things that we hadn't really understood. But it was very hard to capture on screen, right? You couldn't make a dramatic
Yeah.
movie about 15 minutes of immobility followed by one word. That just was not thrilling television. So the point of sort of thinking about movie logic is that if you're stuck in a movie and you haven't escaped movie logic, then what you're doing is you're looking for outwardly visible drama as your signal of going in the right direction. Whereas you might want to listen to Steve Freeman instead, who will say nothing for a long time and then come out with something brilliant. So the montage is quite misleading in that way.
And let's just say a bit about why this matters. Is I think a lot of people um, have their expectations set for what work will be like from television and movies. And what we're pointing out here is that people get bad examples. They're tuned in to the wrong things. Although I will say this now, I love the idea, and I want to see this of a montage of where every scene is the same, where you just see someone sitting in the chair with like their head resting on their fist, kind of a thinker pose. You get the dramatic montage movie, and it's just the same shot again and again as the person thinking about this. But the people have this expectation of drama and activity and certain behaviors like withholding information because you're afraid of what people might think. But then the reality is of what makes high performing teams is things that can very rarely be shown because it's people having space to think, it's people sharing what's going on. And this actually, your idea of the montage made me think about the UK cycling team. Back in the 2007 to 2017, they had this amazing track record, and including they had the first person from the UK win the Tour de France. And the thing about that period is that it started with this concept of marginal gains, and the idea that uh, it was about getting 1% better again and again and again, and the compounding impact of 1% every day for a year ends up being, cumulatively like 37%. So massive difference, everyone would agree. But day by day, it doesn't feel like much.
And it certainly doesn't make a very good montage to be looking
That's
at all the
right.
sorts of things, and we'll link to a James Clear article in the show notes, all the kinds of things they were doing, which were really, really small. Jeffrey, do you have any examples?
Yeah, the one that I remembered off the top of my head was that they figured out what was the best pillow for each cyclist, and then they would bring that pillow to the hotels. And as I talked about, I think they also would bring their preferred mattress. So it was, they were doing kind of this, not the thing that you would necessarily think of. But, with the article, it brought in examples where they found they tested different types of massage gels to see which one would have the fastest recovery. They hired a surgeon to teach writers the best way to wash their hands so they'd be less likely to get cold. Man, I love that idea of a a hand washing lesson as part of your training montage.
It's flu season. I want someone to come train me so I can avoid it.
Yeah, yeah, useful, but again, not good, not obvious television or movie
Yeah, imagine that
material.
they're selecting the mattress, the ideal mattress for each one, and so you have a montage of all the different riders sleeping. That would be a pretty
Yeah.
boring montage, but tremendously valuable.
I really want one of our listeners to prove us wrong here. I want one of our listeners to hear this and take it as a personal challenge to come up with an exciting montage of of all of these things and put it together. And similarly, like think about how your team improve. Learning things like unit testing or continuous integration or more effective retrospectives, or even just a whole series of retrospectives. That's there to give us our marginal gains week by week, iteration by iteration. I'd like to see someone come up with a good montage of all the little things that we learn to become more effective. put that out into a montage. I mean, it's hard enough
You're
to put
welcome
it
to
in
use
books and
AI.
have people read it. Yeah.
So, Sora would be
Yeah.
very good at this. That would be fine. We're happy if you use any method. But yes, definitely a copy of Agile Conversations to anyone who comes up with something like that.
Yeah. So this is the thing that I thought was great about the article is just I've always been a fan of the idea that people learn bad habits from television movies, and a lot becoming effective is learning to overcome a lot of those habits. And now I like this idea that the work that really goes into improving performance is just a lot of little tips and tricks and marginal improvements. And when you add those up, you get dramatically different results. But it's not what people expect. It's not what they see in movies and television. Um, and the reality is something different. So I appreciate Kate Hall writing this and triggering us and you for not reading it, Squirrel, because I think also our ability to talk about the reality of the dynamics rather than needing to pretend the way we'd have to in movies made it more useful for us in our conversation. Took us in an unexpected direction.
Excellent, and I hope useful for our listeners as well. I'm certainly very glad that I don't live inside a movie. If our listeners disagree, though, if you make a montage and you think it's very exciting, or if you think that actually those sorts of vigorous signals are actually a useful way of determining whether a team is effective, should you be looking for an exciting montage, and if you don't have one, is it something bad? We'd really like it when listeners disagree with us, when they have a different perspective, when they use artificial intelligence to make wacky 5-minute videos. We like all those things, and we'd love for you to get in touch with us. The best way to do it is to head on over to agileconversations.com. That's where you'll find our book, which is the prize if you come up with a montage of the type we're describing. And it's also where you'll find free material from us and information on conversational dojos and all kinds of free stuff. We like giving it away. That's our mission, is to help you improve. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you'll also find there our Twitter and email, and we're probably on Sora. I don't know. It's supposed to be a social app. I tried it when I was visiting the US and I couldn't figure it out. But hey, maybe you have and you could explain it to us. So get in touch with us on one of those things, and we'll be very happy to talk about differing ideas and different perspectives in a future episode. And if you come back next Wednesday, we'll have another episode of Troubleshooting Agile for you. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Squirrel.